Yeah. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Mixed Emotions Podcast. It's your man, Tony T. And I got the lovely Miss Keena T with me. Say something to the people.
Hey, everybody.
Oh, my goodness. We got a special guest that's going to be coming on in a little bit. But we're going to see if we can get things started real quick and talk about what's going on in the news. So we're going to start out by talking about the things that dominated the news this week. Okay. The number one being that hit with Damar Hamlin, where he was injured. So everybody knows Monday Night Football. Damar plays for the Buffalo Bills. He's 24 years old. He was initiating a tackle, and in football, when you're going to get hit, the best thing to do is to deliver a hit. So the person he was trying to tackle actually leaned into him and ended up putting a pretty nice hit on him. As everyone knows, Damar fell down, popped right back up, which is normally what happens. We pop right up because we don't want people to know that we're hurt. And after he popped up, he fell down. It looked bad from the start of it. They ended up doing CPR on him. They called in the emergency units right away. They did CPR on him. They actually ended up shocking him, bringing him back on the field. He was transported to a local hospital, where miraculously he is doing phenomenal. He's come 360 degrees from where he ended up, where he started out. So it was. Unfortunately, it takes tragedy a lot of times to bring us together. And that seems like that's what happened. The rival teams were the first ones to the hospital, and all the fans have kind of came around him to see what was going on. So does that make you have a different perspective on football?
Well, no, not really, because I've always felt like it was just too dangerous of a sport. And I don't think there's anything you can do to make it safe. Perhaps safer, obviously, what they've been doing and prepping for this, the teams, the emergency physicians, the EMS crew, I imagine they have a paramedics like on standby right there at the games, perhaps?
Yeah. So even at our level, at the university level, we cannot start a football game until we have an ambulance crew on scene. Awesome. And they have to stay there the entire time. And if someone is transported, they'll swap out and put another bus in there for them. So, yeah, they're there. They have actually, I can't imagine what the NFL has, but us as a university, we have an actual physician that is on the sideline. Mm-hmm. Each team has a physician that travels with them, and they're on the sideline the entire time. So there's plenty of medical staff that's out there. You said it was like too dangerous?
I mean, it's certainly nothing I've ever wanted my boys to get involved in. Like, all that punishment on your body, and it's just unpredictable. So let me start by, let me preface this further statement by saying we don't know what exactly caused his cardiac arrest.
Right.
However, there's just been a lot of initial theories out there that it was the vaccine, or he had a heart attack, or, and that's different from a cardiac arrest, a heart attack. But you don't know what can happen. So I've seen the little bit of football that I do watch, with all the injuries, the torn muscles and ligaments. Yeah, it's just not worth it. It's just, I'm good on that.
Well, so if you think about, obviously it's a dangerous sport, and they're trying to make it better every time. And I'm always concerned. I never really thought about that injury. I'm always concerned about head injuries. Mm-hmm. They're trying to make it safer. They're doing a lot of things with the helmets and things like that. But if you take the span of a football player, starting out Pop Warner, high school, college, whatever, NFL, how many plays or how many tackles that individual is in, and then average that by the injuries through that, then you would have to say that it's not that bad. We have when you put it all together. But anytime someone gets hurt, they have to look at their policies and procedures and what we're doing. I don't know what they can do to change that particular hit.
Well, we don't. I guess maybe until we know more about his injury, then we can go back and say, okay, this is what we need to do. Because, from the little bit that I have read about what those guys have to go through to even get on the league and play, I mean, they do extensive health background.
Absolutely.
And all of this stuff. So, because, initially I was thinking, well, when I saw the replay and I saw him, go down, he gets back up. Obviously that kind of rules out anything with the spinal cord or anything like that. So I honestly was thinking cardiac arrest. I'm like, oh my gosh, he looked like he's going into cardiac arrest. So then they did confirm all of that. So until we really know what happened, if this was something that's been there, or if it was something that was caused by the hit itself, which is possible, I guess it'll just be hard to find out. Then we can find out what we need to do specifically to avoid things like that.
Agreed. There's a lot of positive things. Is one that he's a professional athlete and he's in great shape.
He's young.
So he's young. He's a professional athlete. He's in great shape. So he's bouncing back better. As you know, I had a heart attack years and years ago, and I was probably in some of the best shape of my life at that time. Mm-hmm. But it was rough. It was tough to come back from that. I mean, it's really, really rough for him to be doing the things that he's doing right now. He's obviously a better athlete than I was. But yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I agree with that. We just need to figure out, from the outside looking in, we just don't specifically know what has happened. Even his physicians were like, ongoing tests, or just we'll figure out, what happened and what caused this. But his age and his shape, definitely. And all those prayers, you guys went to the throne of heaven and petitioned God on his behalf.
Sure enough.
All the millions of prayers, God didn't have no choice but to say, hey.
Right. I guess I got to keep him. What is his foundation? This is like $8 million that he's raised.
Yeah, it's what is it called? Something for Chasing M's Foundation, and he had a modest goal of like $2,500 to give toys back to the community, and right now it's like $8 million.
That's incredible.
And before we came down, I was just reading that the NFL and the Bills came to some type of agreement to pay him out his contract, the full amount. That's amazing
true? Because the contracts or the money doesn't kick in for an NFL player until their third year, mm-hmm. and he's only in his second year. Mm-hmm. So he was in that gray area. But from what I understand, the NFL, the NFL and the Players Association, along with the commissioner, went in and they started restructuring everything as soon as that happened. For him. Of course, it's going to affect everybody, which is good. You got some really, really strong athletes that go into the league and they don't last long. They don't last 2 years because it's so tough. It's so cutthroat.
And you ask me why I think it's so dangerous and why would I not agree? Like, it's barbaric. I mean, it's basic. It's barbaric.
Well, we're wearing helmets and pads. It's not that bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
It's not that bad.
I guess not that bad is relative.
Right.
Because it's pretty bad.
It could be worse. I mean, rugby, they don't even use equipment and they hit just as hard. Mm-hmm. But at least we're wearing helmets and but I tell you what, the athletes are so strong and so fast now. I remember when I was playing football, the linemen were the biggest guys and the slowest guys. Mm-hmm. Now, the linemen are just as fast as the defensive backs. The linemen will run you down. I mean, it's a real athlete in front of you at this point. So you can't just say, okay, I got the fat guy and I'm going to block the fat guy. I just need to keep him out. You can't say that anymore because that person is strong, fast, they have moves, and they're going to get around you and they're going to make you look silly. So all those athletes, you think about it. Some of those guys are 350 pounds. And they're running up and down the field like it's nothing. I don't know too many 350-pound people that can run up and down the field like it's nothing other than professional athletes in football. So,
We had a question about what if that was an older player like Tom Brady? What would his recovery look like?
well, first of all, Tom Brady is obviously the greatest.
Oh my God! You think Tom Brady is superhuman? Can't stand him. First of all,
he's obviously the greatest thing to ever play the football.
First of all,
to grace the gridiron. All right, he's the greatest. But Tom is in his 40s, and would he be able to come back from something like that? I don't know. I think Tom has taken more hits this year than he has previously, and they are having more effect on him. You can watch over his career because at first he didn't get hit, and then he started getting hit, and now you see he's getting hit pretty frequently, and it's affecting what he can do. He's missing passes, which he's the greatest. He should never miss a pass because that's just our expectations of him. So I don't think so.
Well, as a nurse, I could get into like the anatomy and physiology of how the heart works and all that kind of stuff. But until I really know, what they tell us about what happens, it's hard to say.
Right.
But obviously he's older. So usually when you're older, you are, less likely to snap back from things. But I will just say in Hamlin's case, and it looks like all of the experts that are speaking about it, the physicians that were there, they all concur that what really saved his life is that immediate CPR.
10 seconds.
Right away. The doctors, they recognized what happened. They recognized the pulse was gone, and they were on it. That is what, without that, his percentage goes down by 10% of, I mean, first of all, I think it's once you go into cardiac arrest, you have a 10% chance of coming back anyway. So it's that immediate CPR, that's what got him. And that defibrillation.
Absolutely.
You use the word shocking. You don't really say that.
We don't say shocking. That's what it feels like if you ever hit somebody when they're not. So the defibrillation that they did. I mean, but you know what? Those things are everywhere now. They're hanging on the wall in pretty much every business and every school. But how many people actually really truly know how to use them?
I mean, in those things, but they are so high tech now. You turn them on, they're gonna tell you exactly what to do. They tell you what to do. So it's hard not to do it. And it's better than nothing.
Right.
It'll tell you where to put the pads. It'll tell you, the pulse is not detected. It'll tell you it's getting ready to shock.
Right.
You take your hands off, and it'll tell you shock delivered or whatever, and then and it'll tell you if there's a pulse back, or it'll tell you to do it again.
And I think that's good because I'm the one that I've gone through the training, but I think in a stressful situation, it'll be good to know when I turn it on, I don't have to remember anything.
Yeah.
I just gotta remember where it is on the wall and go get it.
Yeah. And everybody honestly should know CPR. I mean, it's so easy to get into a class. It's a lifesaver for so many people that. Yeah, everybody should do that.
Absolutely. And, we actually have someone that works with our company who teaches CPR. She actually came and did our department. So, if anyone really wants to get into take a CPR class, very reasonably priced, and she's pretty good at it. So if anyone wants to get into that, just reach out to us and we'll see what we can do to get you going because it is a must. Now, when I was first coming up, we were worried about being liable for doing CPR. Can you talk about what laws are there laws that protect people?
Well, yeah, there's the Good Samaritan law that's out there. So if you're just on good faith, just trying to help someone and doing the best you can, then they can't come after you legally for that. Right.
That's right, and I think that's big. They have everyone's. It's COVID and germs and no one wanting to put their mouth on people already. But now it's more compressions,
it's just
right?
More about the compressions and keeping that oxygenated blood flowing. You don't even really worry about the respiration parts at this point. You're just trying to do those compressions,
right?
Keeping that heart pumping.
And you can get those little mouth. You can carry it in your bag and just you put it right in if you need to give an airway. Because it has something in there that they can't.
Oh, it's like You mean like the backflow? It prevents the
Right,
backflow. Yeah.
right. I love it when you talk medical. Yeah. That's good. I remember me telling you about the guy that died in the street, and he was in his car. Well, we didn't know he was dead. Obviously, he was in his car. His car was running. The windows were doors were locked. Windows were up, and we had to bust the window and get him out. And we got him out, and I'm doing CPR. And as a police officer, if you start CPR, generally you're gonna be there for a while. So I said, okay. So I started it, and I'm like, I know I'm going to the hospital with this guy whenever they finish it or whatever. But I was just doing the compressions, and once they got him in the ambulance, they were bagging him, so they weren't even doing the breaths; they were using the bag. And but they actually relieved me. Someone else took over, and they didn't make me go to the hospital, which I was pretty happy for. Unfortunately, he didn't make it. All right. So we'll keep praying for Damar and his family. We'll keep praying for the NFL. We'll keep praying for these kids that are out here that are playing. And we'll keep praying for that spirit that he has. When he woke up, the first question he asked was, what?
Did we win?
Did we win? He's still competitive. I love that. I love that. So
we won the game of life, the doctor said.
That's what he said. That's right. That's a bigger win. That's a bigger win than you was thinking about.
Today he posted on his Twitter. He said it was not his Twitter, his Instagram, his social media. That he nothing he would prefer more than running out of that what do you call that?
The tunnel.
The tunnel with the guys. But he said God had different plans for him.
Right.
So
right.
He's using them for something different.
When it first happened, and he went to the hospital and they had to revive him again, I said to myself, I don't know if this kid's gonna make it. And then 24 hours later, that changed. So I'm like, okay, well maybe he'll pull through. He'll be a spokesman or something. Now I'm thinking this kid's gonna play football again. This kid's gonna be back in the NFL.
Quite possibly.
Yes, he can do that. All right. Good deal. So, we have another topic that we want to discuss. And we have a guest that we're going to bring on. And she is a family member to us. But I will let my beautiful wife introduce her.
We're going to bring in our most opinionated.
Oh, Lord.
Most informed social butterfly of a little sister, Shamiko.
Shamiko, where you at?
Thank you all. All the calls are very good, and I'm here for it today.
Good. So, Shamiko, we wanted to talk about roles. We're going to talk a little bit about like what the roles are, the traditional roles are in a relationship. Like, the man's supposed to cut the grass. The woman's supposed to cook. The man's supposed to work. The woman's supposed to do the laundry. Talk about those typical roles and maybe how they have changed, because the ones that I just gave are not the way it works in my house. So
and how that can cause conflict in your relationship if they're not agreed upon.
Oh, absolutely.
So traditional roles, Ken and I were raised in a traditional household where the man went out, he worked, he protected, he provided, and the matron, she took care of the children, she kept the house spotless, and that's the type of household that we grew up in. So I like to say that that's the most familiar for me, is the traditional roles. However, the modern role is that we all contribute financially, because of course with inflation, it's not possible unless you make a 6-7 figure salary a year to provide for an entire family, just on one income. And so those were the modern roles are now
7
that
figures for me.
Okay. Yeah. The boss has spoken.
I'm just saying.
But yeah, so the modern roles now are that we do it all together. So whereas it used to be the wife keeps the house clean and the husband makes the money, now the wife and the husband have to make money. And so you have to wash dishes, I got to mop floors or whatever the situation is. I may go to the grocery store. You may cook the dinner. The roles are pretty much we just alleviate tasks as we see that the task is needed and the time permits. So there is no more of the traditional roles without the financial backing to support that traditional role.
So how do you feel about that? Because you talked about your upbringing, and I know that Granddaddy. I always said, I always said in the simplest terms, Granddaddy was a man. That's the
Yes.
bottom line. He was a man, and
Yes.
he
Yes.
understood the assignment. He took care of his wife, took care of his kids, took care of his
Grandkids.
grandkids,
Yes. Great
neighborhood
grand.
kids. Right?
Yes.
He was a man's man.
Yeah.
He felt that it was his job to go to work to provide, and
Yeah.
when he died, he was still the same way. He still was
Yeah.
a provider. So you came up in that environment. And so what the traditional role is because that's the roles that they played, correct?
Yes.
And you said it changes. So how does that how does that make you feel? What are we doing that we got to do it different than what Granddaddy did? Because obviously Granddaddy did it right. Most of y'all
He,
came out all right.
yeah, and I think he did a really good job. One thing that I learned as I got into my 40s versus, just strictly because my 20s was spent, I wanted a man like that. I wanted somebody to bring home the bacon and I fry it. So, what I kind of learned in my 40s was Granddaddy was a protector and a provider. We knew he loved us from his actions, but he didn't really give us a lot of verbal affirmations of love. So he didn't constantly tell us. He would just tell us what not to do, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, yeah. So what he did was he didn't have to tell you love.
He just set the example.
Right. He just
yes,
like we
he
say
set
right
the
now.
example.
We say right now, what's understood doesn't need to be discussed. You
Correct.
understand he loves you by the things that he does. So
Yes.
he does it. He
And
did
then
it
back
different.
then, they didn't do a lot of open
Correct.
dialogue, talking
Yeah.
to
Right.
the
Yeah.
younger ones. And, we were his grandchildren as well.
Right.
So,
Right.
there was a
And so I
different
think he
layer.
loved.
Go ahead.
I think I always say that I feel like that Granddaddy loved us. So I feel like he loved his grandchildren so much. Like the way his face lit up to see his grandchildren was like, I can explain it now because I'm a grandmother, but it was just the way he loved us that he didn't have to say it. But what as a grandchild or the person that he was responsible for, I'm looking at it the view of him and my granny's our granny's relationship, and I would want a protector and a provider and a professor, somebody to profess their love for me as well as show me their love. I would need that verbal backing as well as the proof of your words. So I'm not looking at it as an aspect of his grandchild because I wouldn't change anything that he did. I think he was amazing. And I don't see how he did it. He retired and went back to work to raise us. So I don't see how he did it, but I do appreciate his sacrifice for us. But as a child, my view was perfection. But as in a relationship aspect, I'm looking at it as I would kind of like him to. I would have liked a man to be more of a, hey baby, I love you. You look good today. I would like a little more verb. And I'm not saying that he didn't do it because again, I was young and I really probably wasn't paying no attention. But I just would have. I want a man just like that but just to a little softer in the I don't know. I wasn't Helen, so I don't know what that relationship just completely consisted of. He probably told her that offline for me and Ken to be in prison, but
He didn't. He didn't.
Well, let's talk about conflicts when your partner is not meeting those expectations. So, like I know for the two of us, so in our relationship, we both work full time. You're a busybody, so you're always into some of everything, but you make time to do, the things that you want to do and the things you have to do. Now, in our home, you do most of the cooking now. Because I just absolutely despise cooking anymore. I feel like I did that for 30 years. I'm over it.
I do let you cook Thanksgiving though.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
The queen of I'm getting her an 8.5. Everything made. It's the queen of Thanksgiving.
But you don't mind cooking? I don't mind taking the trash out. We just
Right.
got to figure it out. I do most of the in-store grocery shopping. I do most of the housework as far as cleaning the house. But that cooking thing, yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that, and that's something that you love to do. So that's fine. Any other thing you have to, like, Shamiko, have you ever ran into an issue where the male was like he's the man and he just makes
Yes.
all the decisions
Yes.
and he
Yes.
okay, so talk about
Yes.
that.
Okay. So in a previous relationship, not to bash to point out anything, anyone in particular, but in one particular previous relationship, he felt as if because of the gender that he was born into, that I was to cook, clean, go to the grocery store, bring in the groceries, cook whatever meal he desired daily, while he just got to just be the man, which was take trash out and get the grass cut. There was no, and still I had to go 50-50 on the bill. So that bothered me
Wow.
because, yeah, that severely bothered me because it was actually one of the main reasons for me to leave the relationship, because I was getting nothing out of the relationship. I was getting no peace. I was getting no rest. There was no satisfaction in that for me because, again, I was overworked in the relationship. I was not getting any satisfaction from the relationship because I had no opportunity to rest in the peace or the companionship of the relationship.
Well, I think that I think those are things that have to be established from the jump. Right? I don't think that you can't start opening the door for her to get in the car and then once y'all get together, stop it. You can't.
Yes.
However you start is how you got to finish. So I think those things have to be discussed up front. I was really, really upset when I couldn't get the pastor to say obey at the wedding. I asked him.
You couldn't get me to say obey. For
Well, because you threatened the pastor. You and Shamiko and your sister threatened the pastor not to say obey. I was a little bothered by that. But even if you had said it, I may not have made you done it. But sometimes you do need to obey, but you just hard-headed.
Well, that's submission, right? So
let's talk about that word, the S word.
a little submission here. So I always say that, as a child, your older sister is always your role model, right? So it's still to this day, we're 5 years apart. I just view her totally in a different light than I do Shandi and LaRonda. As far as the goal of life.
So so I just want to be clear. You're talking about Keena and her two sisters, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
So when you look at a person, you kind of, oh, she would do this and this and the other. So I feel like she's a naturally submissive person, right? But she's also a natural leader. And so, I've seen her more submissive with you than I've ever seen her before. And that's because the point I'm making is that if a man leads properly, you become naturally submissive. You naturally trust him to make the best judgment. You naturally lean into his wisdom if you are leading properly. Now, you can't be, in my case, I couldn't be submissive. There was an argument because I would not submit because I didn't trust the judgment of the person that wanted me to submit. So submission is natural for women. You know what I'm saying? And I think
nobody wants to walk around being a hardcore woman. You want a soft place to land every day. And
yeah, and it's no fun being, the leader when you're not, you have being a single parent or being in a relationship with somebody, raising children with that person, and they won't lead. They want to be submissive to you, and you want to be submissive to them. And so here in turn, you're not being a woman or you're not being a man. This argument comes back and forth because the person who is designed to lead biblically is not leading because they are not submitting to God, or they don't have a higher power or some type of structure that they want to submit to. So they want you to, be that person instead of leaning more towards the Lord. And there was another thing about Granddaddy Grant. We lived in a house where the Lord was present at all times and in force at all times to say, we are going to, as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. You in here, we going to church Sunday. You in here, you going to Sunday school. You in here, you going to do this. You know what I'm saying? So we actually was brought up to be submitted to the Lord. And so when a man is not, the upbringing of people, that makes a big difference. Because if I'm brought up in a church and you're not brought up in a church and you feel like, you solely rely on yourself for everything and you submit to nothing, and then I submit to the Lord and I'm fasting and I'm in prayer and I'm in my word and you're not, then that's when the problem comes in, because we can never be equally yoked if you're not going to be submitted to the Lord, and I can't submit to you because the God that's in me is stronger than what you submitting to in the world. So that's always the time.
Well,
Go ahead.
you guys, all of y'all took more after Granddaddy than after Granny, because Granny was submissive, and y'all are hard headed.
Wait a minute now.
What happened?
Hey, not too much on the first girl.
Not too much.
Y'all are something to deal with now. That's why Granddaddy gave me y'all, because y'all was tough to deal with. But I mean, it's just, it goes down to the upbringing, far as I see. I try to tell my boys all the time that you have to understand that the buck stops with you as a man as far as doing these different things, and you prepare yourself to do it. Don't. I was listening to Pastor Hawkins this morning. And he said that he'll chastise his son, and his son. He said his son is getting cool now. So he said his son be like, "My bad," and he says, "No, it's not your bad. You're human. You're making mistakes. My position here is to train you, is to teach you, is to mentor you. It's not to just come down on you." And then he said his son was like, "Okay, that makes sense." His whole different understanding about what he said. So, well, definitely, I think it starts in the house. You have to teach a man. Like, you remember when my pop died, and my nephew's got all sisters, right? And it's all girls on that side of the family. And he was upset and he was crying. And they were giving him the big boys don't cry thing. Stop that crying, stop that crying. You're a little boy, And I brought him over. I was like, it's okay to cry. You hurt like everybody else. This is a part.
We have to start teaching our younger boys that too. Like, they have emotions. It's okay to express them.
Right.
You don't have to keep them bottled up. That's probably why we are where we are in this society. That's a big part of it, because you have so many men who have held their feelings in because they were raised to be, men don't do this, men don't do that. And so that gets into those roles again.
Right.
At the end of the day, on a very basic level, you're just human. And so you have feelings. I wanted to say, recently, you're talking about it starts in the home. So Gabrielle Union, she came out recently, last week, on I believe it was on a talk show. And she was previously married before she married Dwayne Wade. Is that his name? Dwayne Wade, football?
No.
Basketball player?
Yeah, basketball.
And that first marriage didn't work out. She said he had cheated, and she cheated. She said she made more money than him, so she felt entitled to cheat.
Right.
And she said that she saw that behavior from her dad in her home, and that was her example. Like, this is how it goes. I make all the decisions. I make the money. So I get to do what I want to do because I'm the man.
Right.
Now, she's not the man, but she felt like she made
all
the money, so she can make all the decisions. And so that those roles, you have to hold yourself to some level of accountability as well. You just can't treat people any kind of way either, just because you are, even if you are that multi-million-dollar person, and you expect for that person to have respect for you, you don't just go around treating people like that. But
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Good.
In her book, her father and mother got a divorce. Her father actually left her mother um for somebody else, and they were left picking up the pieces, because he just felt like, okay, you're getting old, I'm still making all the money, um I'm just gonna go ahead and bounce, and I'm get a newer model, I'm gonna trade you in and get something else. So that's toxic. Um it's, it's so much about,
masculinity.
yes, and it's also toxic femininity.
Hmm.
um and you think about how that impacted us, you know what I'm saying? Because there are no conversations. Well, in our generation, there was no conversations around relationships like that. Just you bring home the money and you take care of your family, and then whatever I do, with my additional time outside of the family is none of your business. So, men would cheat and have a whole nother family on the other side of town, and have
Wait,
because
wait. Let's not just be slamming men. Women was doing it too because Gabrielle Union said she did it too.
No, she's talking about
no,
like back in
I'm saying
grandparents' days.
no. I'm saying in that era of what her father, what the list, when she picked that up from a person in that era. I'm not saying it because
Oh yeah.
I've been a cheater. You know what I'm saying? So
Uh oh.
She
I'm the
what?
first.
She's
Yes,
telling
yes,
on
sir.
herself.
Yes, sir.
She said
You
what she said.
you said you a
Yes,
cheater.
She
I
said she's
have been a
been a
cheater.
cheater.
Oh,
Yes,
you've been
I
a
have been
cheater.
a cheater. I'm not in a relationship right now, so I don't have anyone to cheat on. But I have been a cheater in relationships. It was tick for tack. If you cheated, then I'm gonna cheat. If you not holding up your end of the bargain, and I'm gonna go over here and talk to uh this guy, boo boo or baby or whoever, and he's going to pay for what you can't pay for. And I that whole aspect, it's a lot behind that. But yeah, women cheat. I've been a cheater. Like I'm shocked at myself that I did not cheat um during the duration of my last relationship, and that was just because I wanted to change. So when you're a cheater, it's something that you want to stop doing, or something that you feel like I've outgrown this, or this is too much to be constantly sharing my body with different people. But yeah, I was a cheater, a big one.
Right. Well, but
Okay.
I mean, at least you learned from it. I mean, and I think that's what Gabrielle Union says. She learned from it.
Yeah.
And that's good. The roles are different. The world is different.
Yeah.
I often say, because I was pretty bad coming up. I was pretty bad, and I often say that I couldn't have grown up in this day and age with the
No.
social media, with all your Facebook, your what's that other thing, Instagram, and what we had when I came, we had what was that thing called? MySpace.
That was
That
not in
wasn't
your
you.
time
That was
frame.
not. Yes, sir.
That's when I was little. We
That's
had
our
MySpace.
kids' time
Oldest children.
frame.
Yeah, I had MySpace when we was coming up. So I couldn't imagine. They're on
You tried it.
they're on trial
Real
all the time.
fast.
I don't know about you old ass rascal, but I came up with MySpace. I was in I think I was in the seventh grade when
I didn't
MySpace
have
came up.
three-way calling when you were you were coming up,
Not on a
right?
Sunday.
Yeah, that's where I
On a
was. So look, we're gonna wrap this thing up. We'd love to have Shamika. We'd love to have you come back. Obviously, we have some more things that we want to talk about. Definitely want to talk about that Speaker of the House deal. We definitely want to come back and talk about that. But that's a whole show in itself because that was crazy and
A shit show.
yeah.
Yeah. Did you see this Harriet rolling cases of champagne into his office? Rolling
He
champagne into
he
his office? I'm like,
he had
that's
his
what
office set up before he even won the vote.
Right.
Yeah, so let's leave that alone. So
We'll come back.
Yeah, we'll definitely come back to that. Again, Shamika, we appreciate you coming on, taking time to spend time with us, and
Good conversation. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
all right. So once again, we'd like to thank everybody for coming out. This is the Mixed Emotion Podcast. I'm Tony T. Also present with me is the lovely Miss Keena T. We are trying to get a show out a week. And again, if you have some information or have some topics you want to talk about or something like that, just reach out to us and we'll see if we can get it in. And as you see, we're taking calls, and soon we're going to be able to put other people on the camera as well in the podcast. So once again, we'd like to thank everybody. We appreciate y'all, and have a wonderful day, babe.
Be good to everyone, and remember, love is a verb.
Oh, where you get that from?